Hey guys, welcome back to another analysis video. Today on the agenda we have a game between Grandmaster Lazaro Bruzon Batista, originally from Cuba, for many years one of Cuba's best players, 2700 player, extraordinary capability, very, very strong. Now living in the States, changed federations, slightly worse rating-wise, 2580, but even so, one of the best players in the United States, in America, with the white pieces. With black, a young international master from Czech Republic, Adam Frank, who I assume, I don't know for sure, he may be studying in the States, although he does represent the Czech Republic. The game comes from the Las Vegas North American Open, and this was played in December in 2024, very recently, just 2 months ago. I thought this was quite a good game to bring to the channel because it does illustrate some of the dangers in opposite side castling positions, which very rarely occur from the opening variation we're going to see in the game. So I thought it was quite interesting, and I'm sure you're going to learn quite a few things here. So Lazaro started with d4, and after c4 e6, Queen's Gambit, Adam Frank played c5. Now I'm seeing a lot of c5s very recently, so I am suspecting that there are some recent courses on this the Tarrasch line, which used to be very popular in Kasparov's times, but then sort of fell out of popularity and is making a small comeback. Of course, there are many moves here, but pawn takes pawn is the most principled move, aiming to leave black at some point with an isolated queen's pawn. Knight f3. Now, generally, theory suggests knight to c6. White plays g3, bishop g2. The game could continue bishop e7, castle, bishop to g5. This is very standard mainline theory. h6, I seem to remember bishop to e3, some rook e8. Things like this is mainline theory. And white has always been considered to have a strong advantage because of the d5 pawn. Also, instead of bishop to g5, pawn takes pawn, followed by b3 and bishop to b2 is very solid, very stable, and actually quite a good line for white. Frank played knight to f6, which is okay, and would probably lead to some sort of transposition if white had played g3. But Bruzon plays bishop to g5, already highlighting the weakness of the d5 pawn. Of course, the threat is to capture on f6 and then to capture on d5. So black plays bishop to e6, and now g3. Knight to c6, bishop to e2, and now if black plays bishop to e7, we would arrive at a similar position that occurs in the main line, maybe with the advantage for white that black has had to commit to bishop to e6, which in some lines maybe is not so good. Black does close down the e-file for the rook. So this could be an idea, one of the tricky ideas of Lazaro for this opening. Play bishop to e5 very quickly, force bishop to e6, and then go for the fianchetto. In any case, Adam took advantage of this to play h6. Take, the d5 pawn is protected, castle, and now black played long castle. So what do I have to say about this position? So both players have castled on opposite sides of the board, so we can expect a very aggressive position in nature, with both players attacking on the other side of the board where their king is situated. However, look at white's king, very well protected by the 3 pawns and the bishop. Doesn't seem easy to go for an attack on this side of the board. Whereas black's queen side is slightly weakened because of the advance of the c5 pawn. Now, I would say that this may be theoretical, but definitely very risky. I personally wouldn't do this sort of idea in one of my games. Bruzon plays rook to c1, very sensible, putting the rook on the file where the king is. If black blocks the center, I would suspect that white would try and blast it open with e4, with ideas like this, some d5, some knight c5, hit on the c4 pawn. This looks quite aggressive and interesting for white. Black played king b8, very sensible, moving the king away. Pawn takes pawn, bishop takes pawn, and queen to d2. So black does have an isolated queen's pawn, but it's not easy to prepare a blockade on the d4 square. Black does have very good pieces protecting that square. Also, it's not easy to attack the king, so the game is open. And black strikes with g5. Very good move. Already showing his intentions on the king side. White plays a3, probably with the idea to push forward with b4. And this, I think, is an important position. Black dropped back with bishop to e7. I think this might be slightly slow. Better was g4, hitting the knight, and against knight to e1, maybe h5. And the idea behind this is that if white captures on d5, with the two pieces protecting, take, queen to d6, attacks the bishop and protects the bishop on c5. White would have to play e4, and now knight to d4 with the idea f5. And in this position, I think anything can happen. White's pieces are slightly uncoordinated because the knight's on e1. The bishop will drop back to b6 when attacked. The knight could at some point come to f3. h4 is in the works as well. Anything could happen here. It's a very, very complicated position. Frank played bishop to e7. Knight to b5, trying to establish the blockade on d4. Again, g4 has to be the move here, although obviously it's not so strong, but this is still a game. Black played rook to c8, a defensive move. It's okay. But now queen to e3. This is a very nice move that maybe Frank missed, because now we have a concrete threat. Rook takes c6, and the queen lands on a7. So we win a tempo. Black played a6. Of course, he could have also played b6, which is probably safer. b4, h5, knight to d4, and it's still a game. But of course, black's queen side has been weakened. In any case, b6 was probably better than a6. But what happens now? White sacrifices the rook. Rook takes c6. Now, if pawn takes, queen to a7 is checkmate. And if rook takes, queen to a7, queen to a8, queen takes b7, and queen takes c6, which is completely winning. So when Frank Adam played a6, he had calculated that against rook takes, he would take the knight. And he probably considered that here, white had to exchange rooks. And correctly, I assume correctly, he considered that his two bishops would compensate the weakened pawn structure. And he'd be right in this sense, because knight to d4, black can continue with bishop to c5. I think he would be right to assume that he can hold this position. However, white played here knight to e5. I'm sure he missed this move as well. And the key idea is that if black captures the rook, the queen lands on b6, and he can start mopping up the queen side. And this, obviously, as soon as the other rook comes in, will be lost. In any case, the variation would be as followed. First, he mops up the queen side, then he brings his rook in, and then he carries on, picking up all the pawns. Now he has 4 pawns for the piece, sorry, 3 pawns for the piece, plus a huge attack, which will result in this line. I doubt that Bruzon calculated up to the end, although it is possible. It's a straight line. He probably saw the 3 pawns plus the huge attack and just went for this variation. Black's best move here would have been to bring the other rook into the game and try and hold this position. But instead of that, he played rook takes c6, and now white cashes in. Take, check, starts mopping up the pieces, and now rook to d1, threatening bishop takes d5 and mate. Black's in huge trouble here. d4 was his solution, and after e3, he had to resign because rook takes d4 cannot be stopped with a mating attack. So what have we seen in this game? We've learned a bit more about the Tarrasch variation. We've learned that Black can castle on the queen side, but has to start attacking with g5, g4 very fast. He doesn't have time to play some bishop to e7 and rook to c8 consolidating moves. And third, we've seen that at the key moment, Bruzon had to play very aggressively with tactical lines like rook takes c6 and then knight to e5. Not thinking in terms of material, but thinking in terms of the attack. So try to understand what happened here. Take this information and bring it into your game, and I'm sure you can improve and go to the next level in your games. And have fun, as always, and see you soon in the next video.